How is it going, Bears fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Bear Down Podcast, where we talk everything Bears every day of the week. Today, we are back kicking off our final regular season week coverage with the Packers and the Bears, the oldest rivalry in football. Welcome to our Week 17 installment of Meet the Opponents. The Green Bay Packers, coming in at 12-3, travel to Chicago on January 3rd to kick off the new year against the 8-7 Bears. This really reminds me personally of the 2012-2013 matchup these teams had, where the Packers were trying to clinch the 1 seed and the Bears were trying to get into the playoffs. We all know how that ended. Randall Cobb with a catch and Chris Conte with the blunt coverage, but we'll see if the Bears can do different in 2020. I'm your host, Chris Maltby. Today I'm joined to the right of me by both of my co-hosts, Parth and Jaylen McClinton, talking about the Packers today, the biggest game of Mitchell Trubisky's career. It all falls on his shoulders. Guys, how's it going?
Doing pretty good. I wish the game was right now. It's snowing really hard in Chicago. It would have been fun to see the game in snow. Like, that could have helped the Bears, maybe.
Nah, they just put up 40 points in the snow at Lambeau. So
I mean, I know, but I mean, a snow game is always even for, I think, the Bears and Packers.
Yeah, I'm good. It's got, like I said,
praying that the Bulls don't lose tonight.
Yeah, that's what I'm mainly thinking about, because they've been disappointing me this last week. But we're talking Bears right now. They haven't disappointed me at all in this last month. So let's talk about the positive rather than the negative of Chicago sports.
Let's hop right into it. If you guys don't know how Meet the Opponents works, we talk about the opposing team's offense and defense, then delve a little bit into how each team can win the game. Really excited to kick off our Week 17 coverage. No guest on today's episode, but some very exciting guests later in the week, so be sure to look out for that. Let's hop right into it. ESPN's matchup predictor gives Green Bay a 65.9% chance to win this one. Bears with a 33.9% chance to win this one. Taking a look at the injury report right now, as of how it stands without any teams practicing yet, the Packers have 5 players listed as questionable: Jay Sternberger, Jamal Williams, and Rick Wagner, the biggest among the bunch. And then for the Bears, Jalen Johnson, Buster Skrine, and Demetrius Harris. Green Bay currently favored by 5.5 in this one. The over-under set at the highest for a Bears game this season, except for, I think, the Atlanta game, 51.5 points. So we're going to kick this one off how we always do, taking a look at the opposing team's offense. Before we do get into this, though, I do want to explain the Bears' playoff scenario, so let's quickly do that. The Bears can make the playoffs at 9-7 with a win over the Packers. They can also make the playoffs at 9-7 and get 1 seed higher, get up to the 6th seed in the NFC with a win over the Packers, as well as a Cardinals win over the Los Angeles Rams. The Bears can earn the 7th seed by just winning, and if the Rams win, then they will have the 7th seed, and Green Bay would probably move to the 2 seed, so we probably face them again, and the Rams would get to the 6th seed, and then the Bears can also get in, just in general, with a Rams win at 8-8, regardless of how their game goes. So let's hop right into this. Jaylen, you mentioned it. Green Bay put up 40 in the snow last week, and their offense has been on fire recently. They're scoring 31.6 points per game, averaging 406.5 yards per game, on average 270.6 for the soon-to-be MVP, in my opinion, Aaron Rodgers through the air, also averaging 135.9 yards per game on the ground on average, with a combination of Aaron Jones, Jamal Williams, and A.J. Dillon, who is very recently broken out and is looking very good for them. So let's take a look at what the Packers offense brings to the table. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers, an incredible year. He is probably the front runner for the MVP this year. 353 for 502, 4,059 passing yards, 44 touchdowns, and only 5 interceptions. Their rushing leader barely above David Montgomery for the 4th most rushing yards in the league. It's Aaron Jones, 190 carries for 1,062 yards and 8 touchdowns on the season. Their receiving leader, arguably one of the best wide receivers in the league in 2020, Devonte Adams, 109 receptions for 1,328 yards and a staggering 17 touchdowns. He went off against the Bears a couple of weeks ago when Mitchell Trubisky returned on that Sunday Night Football game. Let's hope that doesn't repeat this week. Taking a look at the rest of the Packers offense, they did not have Allen Lazard. when we faced them a couple of weeks ago. Also, MVS has been playing great for them all year. Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Robert Tonyan probably got snubbed of a Pro Bowl appearance. He's been great for them at tight end and is definitely going to need to step up if Jay Sternberger doesn't play. But they still do have Mercedes Lewis. I'm not too sure how he's still in the league, but he is there. And then a really good offensive line. David Bakhtiari, Corey Lindsley, Billy Turner, Lucas Patrick. Great up front. So, Parth, I'm going to start with you. This Green Bay offense, they've gotten questioned. They've had haters throughout the season. They've continued to prove everyone wrong. They've continued to put up points. They've continued to beat elite teams, except for probably a loss to the Colts as well as a loss to the Buccaneers throughout the year. Only 3 losses for them on the season coming into this one. So what are your thoughts on how Aaron Rodgers has played so far this year and that offense as a unit?
Yeah, I think you said it. This offense is really elite. They've been shutting the haters down all year. Aaron Rodgers is playing out of his mind. I think he's going to win MVP this year. Devonte Adams with 17 touchdowns as a wide receiver. That's incredible. I feel like every time you watch the Packers, Adams gets like 2 touchdowns.
And let's hope that streak ends. I think he's had a touchdown in like 7 straight games or something like that.
It's insane. He's balling absolutely out of his mind. But, that offense is as well. Aaron Jones up the middle. A.J. Dillon last week had a big game against the Titans. We got to watch out for him. The Packers might use him in some situations. They're loaded at almost every position. Aaron Rodgers is going to win MVP. They're probably going to go in the playoffs, probably try to score 30 points a game. They've been doing it consistently all year. We could be excited about the Bears scoring 30 straight for 4 games, but I'm pretty sure the Packers have had like 8 straight this year, 8 straight games with 30 points. So, this offense is lethal. We saw it last time we played them. They put up 41 against us. Aaron Rodgers had 4 touchdowns. Robert Tonyan, I think, went for a touchdown. Devontae had a touchdown. And then Aaron Jones almost rushed for 100 yards. Last time we definitely got poured on us, so let's hope that does not happen this time around.
Yeah, and Green Bay's definitely going to look to pour on us again this week due to certain situations. And the Seahawks winning last week, they did not clinch the number 1 seed in the NFC. There's a 3-way tie between them, the New Orleans Saints, depending on what happens with them, as well as the Seattle Seahawks. So it should be interesting to see what happens. But Green Bay has to go all out this game. We were hoping that they would clinch the 1 seed last week, so they would possibly start Jordan Love, some of their backups, so the Bears can get into the playoffs easily. And the Bears are in a pretty tough spot right now, a rock and a hard place, if I had to say so myself, because obviously Jared Goff broke and dislocated his thumb. He's missing on Sunday. We'll see what happens with Kyler Murray. I'm getting off track, but that Rams-Cardinals game is very important, and the Packers are playing their starters here. I would probably say early on this week, I'm probably not going to pick the Bears to win this one. I think it'll be closer than it was last time. I'm more confident in how the Bears' offense is playing right now, and it's a really promising sign that David Montgomery is playing well. But this Packers offense can do it all as a unit. They can run the ball. A.J. Dillon, they finally found an identity with their power running back. That's exactly what I think they needed. Aaron Jones has had a great season. Robert Tonyan has proved why he should be one of the highest paid tight ends in the NFL. They have weapons all over the field. They have the great offensive line with probably the best tackle in the league in David Bakhtiari. The Bears are going to have to try and somehow get some pass rush on Rodgers this week if they want a chance. They're going to have to get interesting with their schemes, disguise blitzes. That's what Tampa Bay did to them when they absolutely destroyed them a couple weeks ago. I don't like the Bears' odds against Aaron Rodgers. I never do, and I never will until that man is no longer a Packer. And he is playing great football. He looks like he's going absolutely nowhere. He's going to win the MVP this season. That offense has been able to basically rip apart every defense. I feel like when the Green Bay Packers play, they kind of sucker you. They swallow you up in the first half, and then they just play along in the second half, ride it out smooth until the game's over. They built such great leads, and this offense is able to do it game in, game out. So kudos to them. This offense is very good. Defense is a little bit different. But Jaylen, before we get to the Green Bay Packers defense, what do you think about their offense and what they've been able to do this year?
You guys basically, said everything I was going to say. Aaron Rodgers is an MVP candidate. He has a very high chance of winning it. Actually, like you said, 44 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, which is crazy numbers, especially from a person who's at the age of 37 years old. And putting up numbers like that is crazy. Devonte Adams is a top 3 receiver. Like you said, he has 15-plus touchdowns, which is crazy. Aaron Jones, he's a 1,000-yard rusher. Robert Twain, he has 10 touchdowns on the season. Jamal Williams, he's a very good backup to Aaron Jones, as well as A.J. Dillon, who had a very good game on Sunday versus the Titans. So this offense has a lot of weapons. Led by Aaron Rodgers, who's one of the best quarterbacks of all time. And it just sucks to see him still producing, and he's in our division. So, like you said, they destroyed us last week, or not last week, but the last time we played them at Soldier Field. They put up 40-something points, and that was a shocker to see, especially because the defense hasn't played that bad in a while up to that point. So,
yeah,
this is definitely going to be a tough game for the defense, and hopefully we can at least contain Aaron Rodgers to some point.
It could surely help if we get Jaylen Johnson back, but forcing pressure is going to be the thing that we absolutely have to do. If you give Rodgers all day to sit back there in the pocket, someone's going to pop open eventually, and he'll make an incredible throw. That's what he's always done, especially against the Bears. Taking a look at the Packers' defense, on the other hand, they've allowed 23.5 points per game to opposing teams. The Bears have scored 30-plus points in 4 straight games for the first time since 1965. If they do it in one more game, they could make it a 5-game stretch for the first time since 1956, going back 9 more years on the clock. Green Bay has allowed 349.2 yards per game, 236.1 through the air to opposing quarterbacks, 113.1 on the ground. The Bears are going to have to get it going with David Montgomery this week if they want to win this one or at least stay in it. And I don't feel too happy about that or too promised about that, considering they just shut down Derrick Henry last week, the NFL rushing yards leader. But taking a look at this defense, it's pretty strong all around. I mean, Kenny Clark at the nose tackle has been playing great for them all season. Preston Smith, not the greatest year for him, but he's still been solid alongside Christian Kirksey and Kamal Martin. We all know the Za'Darius Smith and Khalil Mack comparisons that started arising last year. Za'Darius Smith building another year that is very solid. And the secondary is awesome. You can't forget about former Bear Adrian Amos, Jair Alexander, one of the better corners in the league, Darnell Savage, and Kevin King rounding it out. It's a good defense. They have struggled sometimes throughout the year, struggled to get out of some games. The offense has carried probably throughout the most of the season. But, Parth, I want to ask you, what do you think the Bears have to do to be successful on Sunday, and what do you think about this Green Bay defense?
I think it's a really good defense. I mean, yeah, they've struggled here and there during the season, but they have a lot of talent on that side of the defense. I mean, Za'Darius Smith with another big year, 12.5 sacks this year. I think Preston Smith is almost a double-digit sacks this year as too. And then we all know how good Adrian Amos is. He's a great, strong safety. And then they also have Jair Alexander, who's probably, I think, ranked number 1 by PFF as the cornerback. I know PFF's not the most go-to website to go to, but he is an absolute baller. I think he is a top 10 corner, so there's that. They've definitely had their tough times, but against the Bears, they usually play pretty well. I mean, last time they played, I think they had 2 interceptions on Mitch Trubisky. We were flat for most of the game, and we got most of the points later on, and it was basically free points that they handed out in the 3rd and 4th quarter. So for the Bears, they just got to pound the rock. I think, the Titans weren't able to do that early because they got behind early. So the Bears definitely have to just somehow see the game in the beginning of the game, because if we can't, then they're just going to pour it on us. So we have to play the game slow. I think we got to slow the speed down and, just grind it out like we usually have to do with the good teams. Yeah,
the Bears are going to have to win this one in the trenches if they want to win this. And just to show you how good the Green Bay defense has been recently, the team they played last week, the 10-5 Tennessee Titans, have been scoring 30 points per game offensively. Green Bay held them to 14 last week. That's less than half of their total, and their average is still at 30 points per game heading into Week 17. So this Green Bay defense has been solid. I think they did a really good job at neutralizing Derrick Henry last week. One thing I will say, I think they've struggled this year against quarterbacks that are mobile. We saw Ryan Tannehill have a lot of good rushes last week. 2 weeks ago, Teddy Bridgewater had some pretty good success against them when Carolina went to town. So I think you got to keep getting Trubisky outside of the pocket, get him bootlegs, get him play action passes, get him moving, give him some design run plays, because Green Bay has struggled against that this year. If I could point out anything that their defense has not done incredibly well. So, Jaylen, we've seen the Green Bay defense play pretty well recently. They've only allowed 30 points in their last 2 games. So what do you think about what their defensive unit has done so far this year?
Great pass rusher. The Smith brothers, that was a very good, free agent signing class that they brought in last year. For their GM bringing in those 2 type of guys to produce at the levels they are producing at, especially Za'Darius Smith. They have Darnell Savage. He was one of my favorite safety prospects coming out the draft last year. Obviously, Adrian Amos, who we know, how he is. We drafted him, back in 2015. He was a solid safety for us. Jair Alexander is one of the best one of the best corners in the league. Kevin King is solid for them as well. So, not a lot of holes in on the defense, and if we're going by names, but obviously they have a huge hole at middle linebacker, and that's why their running game or their running defense is how weak as it is. They also have Kenny Clark. He's very good. So this defense is very what's the word I'm looking when it comes to names, they're very good, but if you look at the stats, they're not as good as the guys that they have on it, but they can still get some turnovers. They got 2 turnovers against us. So this defense is very underrated in some type of aspect, but I feel like we can definitely move the ball on them, especially how we're doing right now.
Yeah, and they are currently, per ESPN, the 4th best team in the league against defending opposing wide receivers, but 28th in the league at defending opposing running backs. So you would hope it's going to be a big day for David Montgomery. Before we close this one out, guys, obviously you know how we close these ones out. We talk a little bit about how each team can go ahead and win this game. Let's start with Green Bay. I think Green Bay, if they want to win this one personally, they just have to keep doing what they're doing. Find success on offense, pass protect for Rodgers, get the run game going because they're very scary when they're two-dimensional. If you can take away their run game, I mean, Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers, but if it's more predictable that he's going to throw the ball, if they catch themselves in a hole, that's obviously going to come and they're going to catch back up quickly. But if you can make them one-dimensional for the Bears, I think that would help the Bears out. But Green Bay just has to keep doing what they're doing, continue to play pretty solid defense, let the offense take over. And I said it earlier, Boa can stricter the opposing team in the first half and then just take over in the second half and have it going easy. And the Packers will have a pretty good chance to clinch the 1 seed this weekend, I think. And I really hope the Bears will hopefully somehow find a way to slow them down, but I'm not too confident. Parth, I'm not sure if there's much to add, but what does Green Bay need to do to win this one?
Yeah, there isn't much to add. I think they just need to let Aaron Rodgers cook. I mean, he's been cooking all year. Let him do his thing and let the defense take over when they need it. And basically that's what they've been doing all year.
Yeah, Jaylen, we've seen Aaron Rodgers throw just under 3 touchdowns per game. He's absolutely been going crazy this year. We saw Green Bay get the run game incorporated last week. So what do you think they need to do to win this one?
Do what they did last time they played us. Make Mitch cause Mitch to throw a bad pass and get a turnover and just beat up on our defense. They were able to run the ball. They were able to pass the ball on us. It was nobody close to some of their touchdowns. I think it was a touchdown to one of their tight ends. There was nobody 5 feet, in range of him. So if they can do what they did last time they played us, then this should be a fairly easy game for the Packers, sadly.
Yeah, and I would expect the Packers to continue to get A.J. Dillon involved as well as Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones had a pretty big game against us a couple of weeks ago. I think he had 93 rushing yards. The Bears are only allowing 115.7 rushing yards per game. But taking a look at it, they've also done a pretty poor job the entire season at defending explosive runs. So I'm a little bit worried about when it comes to that. We saw a lot of big runs against Jacksonville last week. Dalvin Cook ate us up. We were pretty good against the Texans, but the Lions also had a good day with Adrian Peterson, DeAndre Swift, and the Bears have had some pretty subpar run defense throughout the entirety of the season. So before we close this one off, let's talk a little bit about what the Bears have to do if they want to win this one. I'm going to start first. I said it earlier. You have to get Mitch out and rolling. The Packers have struggled against mobile quarterbacks. That is shown the entire season, and you have to continue to give David Montgomery the ball. Even though they did a good job at containing Derrick Henry last week, the Bears' offensive line is probably a little bit better and a little bit more suited, a little bit more experienced than they were when they went to Green Bay a couple of weeks ago. David Montgomery also has been on a tear since that game. I think he's going to have another good game, maybe even get up to 1,100 rushing yards by the end of this regular season. So you've got to run the ball. David Montgomery absolutely needs 25-plus carries in this game, not only because I think it'll work and be effective and can wear out that defense, wear and tear them, but it keeps Aaron Rodgers off the field. Chew the clock, run the ball, and when you're throwing the ball, I do believe the Bears' receivers will be able to get open. But Mitch cannot make any bad decisions. You got to get him out in bootlegs, play action pass, RPOs. We've seen him really make his mark with Bill Lazor as his offensive coordinator. So overall, you have to get the entire team moving. Mitch can't make bad decisions. You have to run out that clock, and you can't let Aaron Rodgers on the field. One more tidbit to add. Defensively, we've seen a lot of teams have success against the Packers when they blitz. Sometimes it's leaving your men out there on an island. I'm not sure if Buster Screen will be back, but I would almost rather have Duke Shelley play in this one. If Jaylen Johnson can come back, that would be incredible. But I think you've got to put some pressure on Rodgers. The Bears have been very bad at getting a pass rush the entire year. I've said it the entire season. I think Chuck Pagano has neutralized guys like Khalil Mack and Eddie Jackson, and Robert Quinn struggled with a looming injury throughout the entire season, and it's been tough for him to get going. So you've got to find a way to get pressure. You've got to run out the clock, and you've got to keep Rodgers off the field at all costs if you want to give yourself a chance to win this one, because regardless of what happens in Cardinals-Rams, the Bears can get in with a win. They control their own fate, and if they want to do that, they have to do exactly what I just said. So, Parth, Jaylen, sorry, guys. I just took up a lot of time talking about that. I'm pretty sure I hit on most points, but Parth, I'll pass it to you now. Anything to add there on how the Bears can win this one?
Yeah, I think when you said to pound the rock with Monty, I agree with you right there, then and there. I think Montgomery needs to take over this game for this Bears offense. I think the offense needs to run through him this game. I would love to see 20, 25 carries for Montgomery. I think that Vikings game plan would work perfect against this Packers defense. Let Mitch just take what the defense gives and let Montgomery carve up the defense by running the ball. I think that would be the best game plan to implement. And I think, Mitch Trubisky on the offensive side, no turnovers. I think, those red zone interceptions need to stop. I mean, last week was just inexcusable. That was just
would have been
terrible.
a very good game if it wasn't for that throw and maybe others.
Yeah, if it wasn't for that throw, I mean, it would have been just a super clean game statistically, which would have looked good for him. But I mean, still statistically, I think he put up like a 98 passer rating, so that's still pretty good for him. But again, I think as a team, we would love to see no turnovers. And then I think on the defensive side of the ball, I think we just need to pressure. Like you said, I think we did not pressure Aaron Rodgers at all that game on Sunday night. He was just standing back there and just tossing. Cannot give Aaron Rodgers all the time in the world because he will find someone regardless, or someone will get open for him, especially Devonte Adams. So you just pressure. I think Chuck Pagano has not been pressuring guys as much, but I think this is the game where you just bring it all out.
Yeah,
would love to see a big game out of Khalil Mack too.
Yeah, and Trubisky's last poor performance easily came against the Green Bay Packers. He had 242 yards, 3 touchdowns, but 2 interceptions and a fumble. Passer rating of 74.7, easily his lowest in the games that he's played since coming back from being benched. Since then, his lowest came against Minnesota when he had 97.7. So the Packers did a good job scheming against him. That's why I'm saying you got to continue, if you're Bill Lazor, to get him outside of the pocket, get him rolling. And you said it, Parth. You've got to take what's easy. I think he did a very good job of doing that in the Minnesota game. But, I hate to say it, but I think Mitch is always in role for one bad turnover a game. Against Minnesota with the Cameron Dansel interception. You saw it with the Joe Schobert interception against the Jaguars. When the team is rolling, when the team's in the red zone, he gets a bit antsy, and that cannot happen this week. Biggest game of Mitchell Trubisky's career, and he's going to have to lead the way alongside David Montgomery in this one. Mitch, once again, Parth, you said it. You have to take what you can get. I like what you said about the Minnesota game plan. I think the Bears' receivers will get open. The thing will come down to, is Mitch going to force throws? Is he going to take what's easy? And it really depends on the score in some instances. So hopefully the Bears can get off to a hot start and not be flat-footed. You can't not score till the third quarter if you want to beat the Green Bay Packers. 13 points in the first half isn't going to cut it. So, Jaylen, before we close this one off, one last thing from you. What do you think the Bears need to do if they want to win this one, if you have anything to add on?
Like you guys said, keep the ball out of Aaron Rodgers' hands. Do anything in our ability to keep the ball out of his hands. So whether that's run the ball, that is run the ball. Give the ball to Monty. I remember the last time we played them on one of our first plays of the game, he had a 50-yard run, and after that, I think he got like 10 or 12 more carries. So that cannot happen. Monty, you need to feed him. He's a bad.
I would be totally cool with him having 30 carries.
If he had 30 carries, I would totally be fine with that as well, because first of all, their running defense is not that good, and David Montgomery has been on a run lately. He just got over 1,000 yards, and he got 500 of some of those yards in the last 4 weeks. So
he's a top 10 running back this year, if not higher. And
he's top 5 in rushing right now. So if we would have fed him the ball, we're still not feeding him the ball to my expectations. Yeah, how many times we gave Jordan Howard the ball back in those, back 2 years ago, and he was getting almost 25, 30 carries a game, and he was able to get as many yards as he can. David is very versatile. Is more versatile than Jordan is, so he should be getting the same amount of snaps. Obviously, these are two different head coaches, two different type of eras of this football team right now. But we need to feed Monty the ball, keep the ball out of Aaron Rodgers' hands, and when Aaron Rodgers does get to the ball in his hands, try to contain the running game, try to contain Devonte Adams. I know, we can't shut them down completely. Those are two very good players, very good NFL players, but you just be able to hold them to field goals and stuff like that, and not touchdowns, and let the offense continue to do what it does over these last month or so. And that's shocking that I'm saying that I'm relying on the offense to win us this game rather than the defense.
Yeah, and the defense is going to be huge in this one as well. If the Bears want to win, it's going to be tough for the Bears to get the ball to their wide receivers and tight ends. Green Bay, 4th against defending both the tight ends and the wide receivers, but 28th against the run, so it should be promising. The Bears have to get Mitch outside of the pocket. Also, the Bears have done really well recently. I would hope you guys would agree with me at having longer possessions. We've seen possessions go 5, 6, 7 minutes.
Yes.
Bears are able to turn down the clock. You would want this game to be low scoring if you're the Bears because you're keeping the ball, you're owning the time of possession, and you're keeping the ball out of Aaron Rodgers' hands. I think that definitely bodes in the Bears' favor. But I think this was the longest meet the opponents of the season, except for maybe last week against the Jaguars. But that's pretty much it for us, guys. Thank you for listening in to our Week 17. Hopefully not the last one of the season, but our last regular season Meet the Opponents. You guys have been crazy supporting this series all year, and we appreciate it. If you want more Week 17 coverage from us, head over to our website, beardown.com. We're posting columns, articles, and blogs to get you guys ready for Bears versus Packers, easily the biggest game of the season. If you want to find us on social media, we're at Bear Down on Instagram and Twitter. It's a great way to interact with us. We do giveaways every month, and you guys can help us come up with new video ideas. We love hearing what you guys want to see, and we definitely love putting out content that you guys want to see. Finally, you can find the links to all of our social media down in the description, Instagram and Twitter. Be sure to go check it out. It's a great way to interact with all of us as well as our entire staff. If you check out our Twitter, you'll be able to follow the rest of our staff, our writers, our social media people, our graphic designers. We're all big Bears fans. You can find our thoughts on all Chicago sports, all professional sports, and everything that's going on in the world in 2020. But, guys, Parth and Jaylen, 2020 coming to an end soon. I think the only proper way that the Bears could kick off 2021, regardless of if they win or if the LA Rams win, would be to get into the playoffs. I think the only way I would be fine with the Bears losing on Sunday is if the Rams won and the Bears still got another chance in the playoffs. But any last words before we close this one off?
Yeah, like you said, I just want to get to the playoffs. Even if we lose and get in, I don't mind.
You sounded so happy when you said that you want to get into the playoffs.
Oh, dude, I can't wait if we can get in the playoffs. I'm so excited to go.
I have to throw the suits back on like in 2018.
Oh yeah, let's do it. Let's do it, baby. I'm down to put the suits on.
I totally forgot about that.
In case you guys don't understand what we're saying by that, back when we were so young at the time too, and we started this podcast back in 2018. We started it the season that the Bears made the playoffs and went 12-4. And in the beginning of the year, we said we're going to wear formal wear if the Bears make the playoffs. So we're going to stay true to that and probably do that for the foreseeable future, just because it's an old ritual here. And unfortunately, it probably wouldn't be me wearing a suit because Zach is going to be the one doing the coverage for the playoff game because I'm going to be in Florida. But I guess you guys could see us in a wild card weekend live stream when I am back wearing suits and absolutely sweating our butts off. So
we're watching that
should
game
be interesting. Should be interesting to see what happens. But hey, hope the Bears make the playoffs because we might be back in suits just like in 2018. And please do not go back and look for those videos. You're not going to want to see those videos. But, Jaylen, we're getting way off track. Any last words before we close this one off?
Speaking on that's so long ago. I didn't have dreads when we did that. So that's how long ago it was. But this game is whoever wins this game is the team that wants it more. Do the Packers want the number 1 seed or do we want to make the playoffs? And that's all I have to say about that.
The Chicago Bears are going to be the team with the most to prove in Week 17. If they want to make the playoffs, if they want to be respected as a real playoff team, I think they have to take down the Packers. It's going to be a very tall order, but all eyes are on Chicago this week. Massive game as the Bears control their fate. If you guys made it this far in the video, do us a favor. If you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, do us a favor, subscribe. And if you are on YouTube, do us a favor, subscribe. And if you are returning to the channel, like the video. You guys have been crazy with the support in 2020. Thank you guys so much once again. My name is your host. It's been a pleasure to be your host. My name is Chris Malpe. Sorry, we're 29 minutes into this. It's been a little long, but yeah, my name is Chris Malpe, and that's pretty much it for us, guys. Bears fans, as always, do us a favor and stay safe and bear down.